All right, guys, welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. Got Paul joining me in a moment. We're going to be talking about Max Aarons and also the news that's coming today with Bramley-Moore Dock. Some really interesting stuff. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be like a panel. We were waiting on approval from the council to build a new stadium. We got that good news today. Going to be talking to Paul about it, and also any questions that you wanna ask us. Really, anything Everton related, really, we'll try and answer it as best we can. We're going to be talking a bit about Goodison Park as well, because when you're talking about the new stadium, it's only fair to talk a little bit about Goodison Park as well. Me and Paul, we always talk about Goodison a little bit. We always seem to go off on a bit of a tangent. We end up talking about some of our memories from Goodison. So yeah, make sure you're getting those comments in, guys, and we'll try and answer them the best we can. Paul joining us now.
Hello, mate. You okay?
All right, mate. Yeah, we'll just wait for a few more viewers in the stream. But yeah, first impressions on the news coming out today about. Obviously, it's good news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cracking news. I mean, it's a formality. There was no chance it was ever going to get knocked back. I'm really, really happy that it seems like the day that the spade's going to go in the ground seems very much on the horizon now. I think it's only got to get signed off by the Secretary of State in the government now. He's literally just got to pick his pen up. He's just got to sign it off with his pen, and then he can get to work. And of course, he's going to do that when he can get round to people. It's probably be in his tray of things to do. It's just basically when he can be asked, getting round to it. So yeah, it's great news about the stadium. It's on the horizon. A bit sad that the end of Goodison now seems like it's getting closer and closer with every passing week, but you can only be positive about Bramley-Moore, and I'm really looking forward to the day that the construction work actually starts.
Yeah, I think I'm saving all my excitement really for that day when the first spade goes in the ground, because it doesn't quite feel real yet. There's obviously like the mock-ups and the videos and all that sort of stuff, and it's really good to get excited about. It's a great week for Everton. Yeah, the last week has been massive. Hello to Philip Mason in the stream. Hello to Stephen Richardson as well, guys. Thank you for joining the stream. It's always good to see you supporting the channel. Philip there says, not too much a question, but a statement. We are incredibly lucky people. We're going to actually witness with our own eyes the most important event ever in our history. What an honour. Yeah, my cousin actually said to me today, Everton are about to build their third stadium in the city of Liverpool, Paul, which is a fun way of looking at it as well. If we want to keep talking about the derby, we're 3-0 up with Liverpool when it comes to stadiums. So no, it's brilliant. Obviously, the official statement on Everton.com says it was a 3-hour meeting. Denise Barrett Baxendale and Stadium Development Director Colin Chong. They also confirm what the capacity is going to be, Paul. 52,888. What do you think of that? Because there's obviously going to be room for if it ever needed to like expand it, I'm guessing, as well.
No, I'm happy with that, with the capacity. I know when it first leaked out about a year or so ago, and that it was not going to be 55,000 or 60,000 like some people were hoping for. That's a couple of supporters were really not happy, because when you look at it on paper, it's smaller than West Ham's ground, isn't it? It's smaller than Anfield now that they've been redeveloped, but I'd much rather quality over quantity. I don't want to just cram seats in there and for the sake of having them, because having a big lifeless dome isn't always the answer. There's a lot of stadiums that have got a big capacity but don't have good atmospheres in the way, or at least don't have good atmospheres anymore. So I'm happy that the club seems like they've really thought hard about that, and they're nailed on to do the 52,000, because when we saw the designs when they came out from Dan Meese, I really liked what I saw. I thought, yeah, 50,000 odd, it looks like it's the perfect capacity for that design and in the area. And obviously, they've mentioned that somewhere down the line, they're going to explore the option of maybe expanding and making it a bit bigger, but just cramming as many people in as you can, and just so you can have this round number of 60,000, just so you can get a tickle out of the fact that it's bigger than West Ham's ground or it's bigger than Liverpool's ground. That's not really the point. You want to create a stadium that's looks the best visually, gives everyone the best experience, and is right for the club, and helps the club make money, because the more seats you have in the stadium, the less you can charge for season tickets. So I think 50,000 is pretty much a bang on number.
Yeah, I think it's a good number as well. In like the all of the like the voting process where there was like they did a lot of questionnaires with supporters as well, didn't they? And it was obvious that from the very beginning that Barrett Baxendale and Dan Mice and Colin Chong, all the people who've worked on it so far, are very, very keen on making this a fan orientated thing, where it's like you said, if we don't want a lifeless stone, we want somewhere that's going to be better than Goodison Park, and we want somewhere that's going to carry over the atmosphere that we're used to into this new ground. So I think, I'm very happy with the announcement about the capacity. Philip Mason there says possible to increase it to 60k. Yeah, I mean it's possible. It always is. We'll have to see where we go from. Let's just get everything done and start building it first. Let's see where how it works for us. Hopefully, I think it's a bit silly to look at other grounds and compare them to that, because comparing it to West Ham's ground is going to be nothing like that, Paul. This is going to be a purpose-built Everton stadium that's going to have Everton at its core, and it's going to be an Everton ground. This, and we need to think about that. Also, you said there that it's now gone to the Secretary of State. So, and that's 21 days they've got to approve it. So we're looking at the middle of March, lads, for when it's actually going to get increased. And also, there's the legacy project at Goodison. Paul, have you seen anything about that? Yeah.
I've not looked into it in detail. Like I've seen a couple of things here and there where the club want to do something with Goodison when they no longer play in there. They don't want to just do what West Ham have done, where you just knock it down and just have a field, loads of fencing around it, and it's as if a football stadium was never there. They want to keep their presence, their soul still in that L4 area, because that's what the area is. Everton is a area inside Liverpool, the city. So they want to obviously keep the links to the spiritual home of the old stadium. So whether they open up a museum, whether they open up offices, whether they open up, I don't know, maybe some sort of another academy, whatever the club do with it, I'm interested to see what it is. But I've got no doubt whatever the club's plans are, it's going to be something good. They're not just going to abandon that area. And it's hard to say, because I know a lot of West Ham fans particularly feel that where the bowling ground used to be, this West Ham that they know now just seems to have completely abandoned that area, abandoned the soul, abandoned the businesses that were part of the match day experience for all those fans for decades. And it seems like Everton are really conscious of that and don't want to do it. They don't want anyone to feel like that they've been left behind. Just because we don't play our football games there anymore doesn't mean that you can't go there and still feel like you're in Everton territory. And I'm really happy about that. So I'll have to look into what the club really want to do, but I'm absolutely sure that whatever it is, it'll be something that the vast majority of fans are happy to see.
I hope so, because as someone who lives very close to Goodison Park, also, guys, get your comments in for actually where you're from, because I'm interested to see where all of the views we've got in the stream and actually where you're watching this video from, and we'll give you a shout out. But yeah, as someone who lives very, very close to Goodison Park, I live probably like a 5-minute drive, 10-minute drive away from the ground. Grew up in L9, but L4 is really, really close to me. It's obvious to see when you're around the stadium the effect that since at least Farhad Moshiri's put his funding into the club, that they are trying to make it more of a more of a real Everton zone, if you like. There's the college there now as well as the hub. They've got the little AstroTurf pitch as well, so it looks like it's going to be housing, stuff like that. But they really do want to leave a legacy on Goodison Park. A couple of comments. We've got Adam Brooks, who's from the Whittle. Joe is from Fazakerley. Eugene, who's a big supporter of the streams. Thanks for joining us again, is from Northern Ireland. Paul Keating is from London. Paul, tell us whereabouts from London you're in, because it's obviously very big. Who's who are you most local to? Whereabouts you live? Because interested to see that. Colin Benwell is what, if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope so. Is from New Zealand. Have you lived there your whole life, Colin? Let us know, because it's obviously interesting as well. New Zealand seems like a very appealing place at the moment with the COVID rates as well. So yeah, interested to see. Philip Mason is from Old Swan, but he lives in Maghull now. And Matthew is from Bristol. Yes, so we've got a couple of people from outside of Liverpool there, Paul, who, maybe don't get to go to the match that often. But yeah, I think just to those people, just try and describe what it means to leave something at Goodison Park rather than just leaving it and just, letting it collect dust, the area.
The L4 area, that side of Stanley Park, as I said, it just feels like the air is blue, doesn't it? Like, obviously, you're going to get Liverpool fans and Everton fans mixed in all over the place. I mean, I knew an Everton fan who lived down the road from Anfield, so it's not like certain places where, like, I think Glasgow is very much like the city split in half. Like, all the Celtic fans live on one side of the river, and all the Rangers supporters live on the other side of the river, and that's where the stadiums are. Merseyside's not like that. Liverpool, round Anfield and Goodison, but when you're in the proximity of Goodison on that side of the Stanley Park, you just feel like you're in Everton land. There's all the shops and everything have got like usually blue signs, just little things like that, blue signs with a white font. So the owner of that place is an Everton fan. You can tell. All the businesses, like the things like the chippies, the news agents, they've usually all got like Everton stickers in the windows and stuff like that. If you just take when we're not playing in Goodison Park anymore, it would be very, very sad if it just feels like that's just some forgotten area of the city that no one has to pay any attention to anymore, and there's no reason to go there if you're not local. If you're a tourist coming to the city and you're if you're an Evertonian who's not from Liverpool and you're coming for a vacation or just a trip out for the day and you want to see everything about Everton that you possibly can, you don't just have to go up to Bramley-Moore and just do the stadium tour and go and see a match. You can think, right, whilst we're here, we'll go to L4 as well and we'll see where the old stadium used to be, and we'll get a bit of we'll smell the air, we'll try the local businesses, we'll have a walk around the area and try and picture what it was like when on a match day when the game was here. The biggest example I can go back to is West Ham, where if you go to the site of the old bowling ground now, you'd think that a football team had never existed there. They've knocked it down. There's nothing there. It's just a field now with loads of unkept grass and weeds and just no one looking after it, no one bothered. It's like it's just been completely abandoned, and that's quite sad. And that's something that a lot of West Ham fans are narked at the owners for. It just feels like they've disowned everything about the history, took the club away from its working class supporters who all populated that area, and haven't given a monkeys about helping them to still feel involved in the club. I saw an interview with a local business owner who said, I understand that the club had to move and the club don't owe me a living, so I'm not angry at the club for not giving me the match day revenue anymore, but I'm angry at the club for not letting us keep the West Ham logos in the windows and not letting us associate ourselves with the club anymore just because we're not by the ground. So they were happy for us to do that when the bowling was here, but now that they've moved away, they're not letting us do any of that. They're sending us copyright notices and telling us that we're nothing to do with the club, and they don't want our support. It's what it feels like, and I'm really glad that Everton are very keen to not be seen to be doing that.
Yeah, I think from the very beginning we've sort of let the club know that sort of thing is not going to be tolerated. This is going to be an Everton stadium with the Everton fans at its core. And yeah, guys, basically Paul's hit the nail on the head. L4 as an area just breeds Everton. As everything's blue, and you just sort of get a feeling that you're close to Goodison Park all the time. And go on, Paul.
It's very working class, is the bluntest way to
very
say
much
it.
so.
It's Everton are a working class club made up of a working class community, and we're located in a very working class area of a working class city. And even though we're going to be moving away and having a shiny new stadium, we still want to have that feel of a club that we are for working class supporters, and we're happy to be part of a working class community. Whereas you look at Tottenham, and maybe it's unfair to dig them out, but when Tottenham open their new stadium and they're having a cheese room, which is what they've genuinely got in their stadium, I know someone's been, they've got a cheese room, they stock all their like exotic foods for a match day. It's a bit like, okay, who are you really doing that for? Are you doing that for the working class supporters who are going to be going down at half time buying a pint, or are you doing that for all these millionaires who you want to have in your guest suites? Do you know what I mean? Your hospitality areas. It's like there's a place for that at every Premier League club, I suppose. You've got to try and roll the red carpet out to the people who you want to impress, but let's not forget who this stadium is being built for.
Yeah, that's the point. And it's like, for me as an Evertonian, I'm lucky that I live rather close to the ground, and there is landmarks around Goodison Park that have a lot more of an influence than just being there as a business. There's a collection of pubs just around the ground that are known as Everton pubs. You'll know them, Paul, as the Spello, which is, I think, sadly closed down now. There's the Royal Oak. There's the Brick. There's plenty, and they're all coated in blue. Everything has to be coated in blue. There's the shops. There's all the takeaways and stuff like that. And then, but Anfield is the same. It's very much as you cross Stanley Park, and it sounds cliche, Paul, but it is true. As you cross Stanley Park, it changes. The atmosphere changes, and they're definitely different areas. So I think Everton are keen when we move to Bramley-Moore, which I think is L1 or L2, Paul. I'm not sure what the postcode will be. Then it's going to be they're keen not to leave it behind. They want to make sure that it's not taken over. It stays as an Everton core, and it will be good for people coming to visit the new ground to be like, okay, here's another place we can go and visit. You know what I mean? We can go visit where Goodison Park used to be, and we can, obviously go to the new ground. I'll read out a few more comments. Erwin Koeman is from Sweden but lives in Allerton. Interesting. Erwin's a big fan of the stream, so interesting to hear that you're from Sweden, Erwin. When did you move to Allerton? Interested to hear that one. Thomas McGowan lived in Gladys Street for 20 years and then to Everton Valley, so he's another local one. Paul Keating is from northwest London, closest to Watford, but had to choose a team on my own growing up. I was an 80s glory hunter and hated Liverpool, so for better or worse, here I am. I don't think we can clash it as a glory hunter anymore, Paul. You've been around for enough time, so don't think we can clash it as that anymore. But yeah, thank you for your support on the stream. Matthew Thompson says, what's going on with the Holy Trinity statue? Do you think that will stay where it is or be moved to Bramley-Moore Dock? On the pictures I've seen on the official Everton Twitter page, they've shared a picture of Goodison Road with the stand and then the housing bit, and the statue's still there on the picture. They haven't, cropped it out on Photoshop or whatever. It's still there. So I'm guessing stuff like the Dixie Dean statue and the Holy Trinity statue and all that sort of stuff that comes along with Goodison is going to stay there, the main things as well. And I'm guessing the club shop will probably stay there as well, and they'll have another club shop. Because I think, if you do want to make it a bit of a tourist trap, then you've got to keep the club shop there, in my opinion, anyway. Colin says he came over to New Zealand at 17. He's now 63. He's been an Everton fan after watching the great Alan Ball. Come on, you Blues. Great to hear, Colin. Really good story. Any more comments for us? And yeah, Toffee Blues John's just confirmed it there. Holy Trinity is apparently staying with the Dixie Dean statue. Stephen Richardson says, are we the only club to have 3 stadiums? I'm sure there's a team who's probably built 3 stadiums before, but yeah, this is going to be our... Nah.
Arsenal have got Highbury and the Emirates. Did they have anything before Highbury?
I'm not sure. I know, speaking of Highbury as well, we're talking about leaving a legacy behind. I think Highbury's flats now, but they've kept the other side, haven't they? Yeah, so it's good to see that there is something left at Highbury as well. But I think we might be the first team to build 3 stadiums. I'm not sure, to actually purposely build 3 stadiums. I don't think West Ham had anything before Upton Park, and they didn't build the Olympic Stadium per se. No, and John says, we done a video last year about what statues you would like to see at Bramley-Moore Dock. Yeah, guys, leave comments down below. What would you like to see? Or Dock, any sort of statues that you think could be built for other players? Or should we just, keep them all at Goodison? And which ones do you want to see? Paul, me and you before, we've been quite vocal on some of the streams about our memories of Goodison, and we've talked about like some bits there, have been, part of our match day routine, if you like. Yeah, so just interested to go back on that, because I think we've got a chance to talk a bit more in depth about it now, because we're talking about the stadium. So I think, just want to know, you've spoke about your match day routine before, but anything else that you want to mention that Goodison Park remind you of for the people who maybe haven't ever been in the chat?
I always take 2 specific routes to Goodison. If I'm getting a lift, then I drive past Walton Park, and my mum normally drops me off and then goes home. She drops me at the top of the Gladys Street and I walk down, but we go past the same buildings every time. We go past the taxi club, the Chippy, that's opposite. We go past all the houses, and and I always get off at the same spot. I have done for over 15 years, and I've walked down to the Gladys Street, and I walk into my turnstile and then go in. And then if I'm getting picked up, then I'll walk back the exact same way, and then I'll meet at opposite Walton Park and get picked home and go home again. If I can't get a lift, then I get the train to Kirkdale, and then it's the same routine again. Walk past the same places
it's really
every day.
close, isn't it? You just walk down past the elm tree.
Yeah, I could make these journeys I'm describing, these walks, with my eyes closed. I really could. I've been doing it for over a decade now, especially the first one I described when I was getting a driven there. It's just, these are little things that you don't think about, that you realise when Bramley-Moore's built. I will miss doing this. I'm sure I'll come up with new routines. I'll come up with a way of getting to Bramley-Moore, and I've found my way home again and doing that regularly. But it'll be sad to think, I won't be walking down these streets anymore, going past these sort of shops, I don't think, unless I'm in the area going to the Everton shop or something. But I won't be doing it on a regular basis. There's a lot of shops that I go in, or takeaways on my way home, that I probably won't be sampling anymore. And I think just little things like that play a factor in how supporters enjoy their match day experience. And as I mentioned before, it's proved a massive thing for West Ham. West Ham supporters going to the new stadium don't like travelling to there. They say there's only one train station that's very, very busy, apparently, and a lot of fans struggle to get into the stadium on time, or feel like they're always getting too crammed in. And going past all these shops that have been built, I've not been there myself, but I'm relaying stories that I have heard. When you're going to the London Stadium, you've got to go through this sort of new shopping complex. That's got
I actually went through it. I was in London a couple of years ago, and I went, and it's nothing. It's not West Ham. It's like
it's not.
I think it's Stratford.
Yeah.
I think it's Stratford Shopping Centre. It's probably. I think it's got a different name. But the London Stadium's in Stratford. And I was going through. It's you come through, and it's sort of like all astroturfed, like concrete, and there's like benches and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, when I think of West Ham, I think of like pie and mash and greasy spoons and stuff like that. It doesn't remind me of West Ham whatsoever. Yeah,
it's all basically just businesses that have been built that a working class football fan is not going to be able to go in and spend any significant amount of money in. There's no little cafes or no affordable ones anyway. It's all too high end for them, and that's not to be snobby, but that's just not what a working class supporter wants on a match day. They don't want to be going in there and looking at
no one's going to go buy a Ralph Lauren jumper and then go to the match, really.
Or even in a cafe, no one's going to go buy a latte on the way to the game. Or I don't know anyone who would. What they want, like a thing of chips, don't they? Like a little tray of chips, or a sausage roll, or a little bottle of Coke for the kids, or a little pack of sweets. They don't want to go in and to these spaces and, as you said, be shopping for clothes and looking at and paying extortion fees for foods that they can't take in the ground with them. So it's not working class, and that's something that I'm really hopeful that Everton have learned from, and think, right, we're not going to do what West Ham have done to their fans and just make them feel like they've been left behind, and that we've built a stadium that's not appealing to them. It's like they're basically saying to their fans, we've got you forever now. We want to make new West Ham fans. We want to bring in more supporters, but we don't want those new supporters to be like you and to like the things that you like. And that's not nice at all.
Blue Nose Dublin there says, how about a statue of Graham Sharp against Liverpool in '84, an iconic goal? There's actually a mural, isn't there? It's on Goodison Road by where the entrances to the main stand are. of Graham Sharp scoring that goal against Liverpool in '84. And that leads me on to the next thing, Paul. I'd love to see Everton leaving more of more murals, because Liverpool love doing it. They've got ones on Bold Street and they've got ones in the Baltic Triangle and stuff like that. I'd love to see more like mural stuff.
I would, but I don't want it to be of stuff from all made up of players from the 80s when we were actually winning stuff. I want to see modern day players.
Oh, no, 100%. No, I'd love to see one, there's the one, you're going up Bold Street and there's one of Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, but
next to the fact.
What would be the point of making one of them of, I don't know, Mason Holgate, if Mason Holgate doesn't win anything in his Everton career? I don't want to be seeing all this stuff on, and whenever... what I'm trying to say is all the stuff you see those of Liverpool murals, they're all for players who've won things, so they can include modern players. I don't want all the Everton ones to just be of players who we might have liked them when they were here, and we might have fond memories, but they're not ultimately club legends. The likes of Tim Cahill, the likes of Phil Jagielka, the likes of Leon Osman might be players who we really enjoyed whilst they were playing for Everton and they're popular, but they didn't win trophies. The only one of them who comes close to being an Everton legend despite not winning anything is Leighton Baines. But I want to see stuff of Tom Davis, of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But let's do that after they win a cup. So there's one, you can do one or two old legends like Graham Sharp or Neville Southall, but I don't want them to be the only ones we do, or for us to be doing ones of players who ultimately didn't bring silverware to the club. We can start thinking about that seriously when we start winning things again.
That's the thing with like statues as well. Why would you give a statue to a player who's never won a trophy? It just doesn't feel right to me. As much as I love Bainesy's my all-time favourite Everton player. I absolutely love the guy. Like as an Everton player, I worship him. I absolutely love him. But I wouldn't give him a statue. I don't think, because he's never been part of a fantastic Everton team. He's not someone we want to go, oh, all right, we had this player and he was a fantastic player for us, don't get me wrong, but we were never at the top of Europe when he was a player for us. So someone like Neville Southall makes a bit more sense. Liam Munro, thanks for joining the stream, mate. He says, yes, the boys, big shout out to Moshiri. This man has kept his word, but more importantly, he's done things thoroughly and proper, and that's why he's right for the club. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Moshiri deserves a lot more credit than he gets. The amount of money he's given to the managers and football and directors, namely Steve Walsh, to spend on players that hasn't worked out. You've got to take your hat off to him, and it looks finally like it's working. That combination of Brands and Ancelotti looks like it's finally, I'm happy for him. I'm glad it finally seems to be working. But Moshiri, Paul, I think he gets a bit of a bad rap. I think he should get a lot more credit than he gets.
Moshiri's made some mistakes whilst he's been here, but they're mistakes that a lot of other people would have made and thought were the right decisions at the time, or they at least understood the reasoning behind them. He's never made a decision for me where you think, what on earth is he thinking? That has got failure written all over it, apart from maybe Marco Silva. That's the only decision he's made since he's been here where I thought, I don't know what he's thinking there. I think he's been swindled by a job interview, was giving Marco Silva the job. But I was happy when he brought in Ronald Koeman. I thought that on paper, that looked like a really smart decision. And I was happy when, I wasn't happy, but I agreed with the decision when he brought in Sam Allardyce, because I thought that was the type of manager we needed just to put the fire out of what was that disaster of a season. I thought, let's get him in for 6 months just to get us home and dry, and then we can go again in the summer. And he's spent money, and at the end of the day, he's not the person picking who the transfer fees are going on. Is he? He's not saying go sign him. You can't sign him. He's just writing the checks. And Simon Jordan said this quite recently. He says, in modern day football, good owners you're a good owner if you're willing to keep backing managers even when you're not getting any money in return. And that's what Moshiri's done, whether you like him or don't. You can't say he's not backed every manager who's come into the club financially. Yeah. He's given Sam Allardyce.
He even gives Sam Allardyce money.
Yeah.
He gave Sam Allardyce money to sign Walcott and Tosin, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So you might say the likes of FSG for Liverpool are great owners because they've basically brought the club's net value up and they've won trophies during their tenure. but they don't back managers financially to the extent anywhere near that Moshiri has for Everton, or to the extent that City's owners do with them. Moshiri, at the end of the day, as you said, he's delivered everything he's promised. Some things he's tried to do haven't worked, but he seems like he's learned the lesson. And I think Moshiri's biggest crime is he's just been naive at times. He's been like a supporter where he's wanted things too quickly, and he's spent money thinking that it's going to sort everything out when it hasn't.
Yeah,
but he's learned from it. He's never made any decision that has ultimately put the club in an absolutely dire situation, like Mike Ashley has, or like West Ham's owners have. He's never done that, and I don't think he ever would.
No, I really like him as well. I'll always have a soft spot for him for the fact that he came into the club and he's put so much faith into it. He's put so much money into it, and I can pretty much guarantee that without him, we wouldn't have Carlo Ancelotti at the moment. We wouldn't have Marcel Brands. We wouldn't have half the team. So
we didn't have him. We didn't have him come in when he did, mate, in 2016. I'm not entirely sure Everton would even be in the Premier League. Not saying that we'd have gone down.
We were on a bad... Yeah, because would we have sacked Martinez? You know,
No.
Maybe would we have appointed Allardyce when we were really in trouble and kept us up for 6 months? We wouldn't have had the pull to get some players like James Rodriguez. Even going back a couple of years, players like Michael Keane and Pickford and stuff like that, we wouldn't have probably had the money to pull them away from their clubs and come to play for us. So no, we didn't. And all you need to do is go back and watch some David Moyes seasons, and then you'll realise how poor Everton were in the 2000s in terms of money. And there's a couple of people talking about Kenwright as well in the chat, and there's people have got their own opinions on Bill Kenwright. But I think I just respect the man massively for what he's done for the club. We would not be in this position without him, so it's important to give him a bit more credit. Semi-Charm Life in the chat. Thank you for joining the stream, mate. Joshua Erdley, thanks for joining the stream. Adam Brooks says, don't forget Kendall. Maybe a Howard Kendall mural would be quite good.
Yeah, Kendall's the most successful manager in the club's history, so if he gets a statue outside Bramley-Moore or something, then I wouldn't complain. Kendall, I'm not sure. He's not here with us anymore, but it feels like the club don't really celebrate him in the way he should do. I mean, I know he's beloved by everyone who's at the club, sort of thing. Like everyone who's like Ferguson wearing his watch for that game against Chelsea. It's not like he's forgotten about or anything. But the thing with Kendall is just he's not sort of. It's like the club don't go their way to fight his corner a bit.
I think I'd love to see some sort of artwork on, some sort of like a relevant building of, him as a player and him as a manager next to each other, because he is the most successful manager in the club's history. He is one of the best players in the club's history as well. So Howard Kendall, I think, needs a lot more credit than what he gets. And, he's, I'm not saying he doesn't get credit, but I agree with you there, Paul, that he definitely, I think if he's going to get, anything, he deserves credit at the new ground.
What I was getting at was, it just kind of felt like the club didn't make enough of an effort with him to kind of bring him into the fold type thing. They were kind of happy for him to go off and do his own thing, because I always remember, I think Martinez invited him to Finch Farm.
There was that picture of him, shaking Martinez's hand on the balcony, wasn't there? Yeah.
But I couldn't believe that was the first time he'd ever been to Finch Farm, and Finch Farm had been open for a good while by that point, and he hadn't been to Belfield.
Been open about 7 or 8 years at that point, hadn't it? I think.
Yeah, he hadn't been there ever because he'd never been invited, and he hadn't been to Belfield for the last 10 years that we were using Belfield. And you think, how can the most successful manager in the history of the club feel like he's not welcome at a training ground? And it's not like he'd be going there every day and just hanging around and just being a shadow on the current manager. But how can a manager who's done so much for the club kind of feel like he'd be a burden, or he'd be bothering somebody if he wanted to go down and just say hello one day? And it was a bit sad, that I thought. And the same with Southall. Now, Southall's different because Southall's very outspoken, isn't he? And he's got that type of personality where he could rub people up the wrong way. But Southall's, I feel, is especially not made to feel like he's loved by the club. He's loved by the supporters, But it kind of feels like a lot of people at the club are more than happy to just never think about him type thing. Whenever there's a reunion, whenever there's like a reunion event, he's never invited to them.
Yeah,
and
it feels for me, Paul, is when it comes to this sort of thing of who should we acknowledge, when it comes to like who we want to be as an ambassador or whatever, it feels like people in suits sat around the table going, right, who's not going to upset anyone? And Neville Southall comes up and he's immediately crossed off because it'll be like, okay, he will say something or he'll do something or whatever.
I don't want to just spend the rest of the video going off about this fella, but what it is if you're mates with Bill Kenwright. If Bill Kenwright likes you and you're in his little club and you say nice things about him in the media, then Everton will look after you and bring you into the fold. Whereas if you're not that, like Southall, then you can get lost, essentially. Again, supporters love him and the supporters love Kendall. But if you're one of these players who you've got your own mind and you want to sort of you've got a bit of an independent streak where you think, right, I don't want to be told what I can and can't say. I want to be able to go to these club events and feel like I've been invited. I haven't just been brought along because it would be awkward if he didn't invite me. I want them to actually want me here, which I don't think has always been the case with Everton, and I hope that changes. I hope that a lot of these ex-players who you don't see involved with the club in an official capacity as much as other players do, sort of get brought back into the fold and made feel welcome again. Because whenever you see Everton, like on the official club podcast and things like that, it's always the same people, like Graham Stewart and other people like that in the 90s, players who are friends with people at the top of the club. It's like a bit of a boys' club. It's like, they're probably great fellas and they did well for the club, but I don't want to see the same faces on all the time. Let's get some other people on. How come we don't have Pat Van den Houw on? Hardly ever. How come we don't have
And Pat Van den Houw actually puts himself out there quite a bit lately because he was quiet for a few years, but recently he's been like around a bit more. That whole 85 team has really. Van den Houw seems to be a bit more. Yeah,
only a few of them. Yeah, but only the few of them ever. You'd only see a few of them on any official club media. You'd only ever see Sharp or Kevin Ratcliffe. Yeah. Kevin Ratcliffe. Yeah. You don't see Pat Van den Houw as much. You definitely don't see Southall based on what we just said. You see
Mountfield every now and then.
Mountfield every now and then.
Yeah, but Andy Gray's one who I feel like would love to work with Everton in some sort of official capacity.
Yeah, and I don't know whether there's any hard feelings over what happened back in the 90s when he looked like he was going to take the manager's job and then he didn't at the last minute. I don't know whether there's any carryover from that, but I think people know what I'm getting at. When it comes to ex-Everton players who are considered legends by the supporters, you're very much made to feel like you're part of the family forever or you're not in the family at all. And I don't like that. I think everyone should be treated the same.
Yeah, I agree with you there, mate. It feels like there is, like you said, there is a little boys' club, isn't there? And it's like it's the people who will please Kenwright seem to get a bit more of a job at Everton. But I would like to see a few more Everton legends getting on. I like the Everton Giants thing. I think I'd like it if they carried that over in some way because I'm guessing they'll lose that in the new ground. There's like the plaques outside and stuff like that. Maybe if they had like one like significant place for the Everton Legends plaque, Paul. What do you reckon about that? Because we've got like we've got like the memorial part as well with the little tiles. Maybe if they had somewhere where all those plaques were in one place for tourists to see and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're going to take them with them. From what I've read, the same with the granites. Me and Terry, I've got a granite by the Dixie Dean statue, and I've read that they're going to be moved to go with Bramley-Moore. They're not going to stay at Goodison.
Yeah.
And I prefer that because I know we've been talking about how we want to leave something behind in that area and make that feel like that's still very much an Everton section of the city. I do want stuff that supporters have paid for, like tributes to family members and granites and things like that. I want that to go where the current stadium is so those fans can still feel like they're involved. They're involved. They can see all that stuff on a match day. They don't have to go out of their way back to the old area that they're not going to, if they don't live there anymore, they have to go out their way to see that. They can still see that every time they go to a match because they paid the money and they want to feel like they're close to where all the football's being played.
Semi-Charm Life there says Alec Young. I'd like to see maybe a bit more Alec Young sort of, stuff going around Goodison or the new ground.
Do you know what I want to see a statue for? And it's I've wanted to see the club do something to honour him for years because it's absolutely not on the way he's just been forgotten. Harry Catterick. Harry Catterick was the best football manager in England in the 1960s. The stats back that up. I think he won more points than Shankly, Don Revie, and Matt Busby, and they all managed their clubs for that entire decade. Shankly was in charge of Liverpool for all of the 60s. Revie was in charge of Leeds for all the 60s. Busby was in charge of United for, I think, nearly all of the 60s, apart from maybe 6 months at the end. And Catterick was in charge of Everton for all the 60s. He won more points than all of them. He had a higher average league finish than all of them. And it just seems like the media, because and it goes back to the man's attitude. He didn't open up to the media very much back in the day, so they've got their own back on him by sort of whitewashing him from English football history. And I don't like that. I want to see the club celebrate him a lot more because it's not fair. I don't see anything of Catterick's family ever. I mean, I don't know this. Maybe they do, and I don't hear about it. But I don't see anything of Catterick's family getting brought into the fold. I mean, you see Dixie Dean's family are still very much involved.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, you'd always see like his grandkids and his great grandkids like are often like the mascots, and they get brought out and stuff. And Kendall's, I think Kendall's kids have been guests at the club.
Yeah, I think they've been involved at times. Yeah,
yeah.
But
and
you make
obviously
a good point there, Paul. Yeah, really good point that, because as you said there, for the reasons that you've just said, I forgot about him, if I'm being honest, because he's not, he's not mentioned enough as, one of the great Everton managers, even though we all know he is. And I would like to see more of that. Harry Catterick being remembered a bit better.
I think he's Everton's greatest ever manager. I know statistically he isn't. He didn't win as many trophies as Kendall, but he built two totally different title-winning sides. He won it in 60. I think it was 63.
62, 63, and
62,
69,
63.
70.
7 years apart. Kendall won two league titles in 3 years with near enough the same team. Kendall won. Catterick won the league with two completely different sides and won a trophy in between that, the FA Cup, when it was a lot harder to win. So yeah. I think Catterick personally is Everton's greatest ever manager, and if anyone's going to get a statue at the new stadium, I think it should be him. I really do. I think the club should go to their way to remind the football world who Harry Catterick was and how brilliant he was and how much good he brought to Everton Football Club and turned Everton into probably the most dominant force of the 1960s.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Maybe even more than the 85 team. I absolutely love that 1969-70 team. The kit and the players in that side. There's the Mönchengladbach game, which is a really good one to go and watch on YouTube if you haven't seen it. I think that sort of era for Everton doesn't get very much of a say anymore, because the 66 cup final gets mentioned and thrown around quite a lot. The 80, obviously those few seasons in the 80s, but that sort of team doesn't really get as much recognition as I'd like. Because a fantastic Everton team, and we throw about we won 9 league titles, which we have, but I think it's important to give a mention to each of them and maybe have a specific segment for each of those seasons with a little sort of maybe a bit of information about that season for people who want to come and see.
I saw a thing on Sky a couple of months ago where they were talking about the greatest English managers in English football history, and Catterick won 2 league titles and wasn't even mentioned. It's like, what? It's all
a popularity contest.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, and it's all because Catterick, back during the time he was in football, was not fond of the media. He wouldn't do interviews, and I've even read when the team sheet would come out, he would post all the starting line up in alphabetical order, so the press and the opposition manager wouldn't even know what formation he was playing. He wouldn't list them in number order or in position order. It would all be in alphabetical, so you couldn't work out who was playing where on the pitch. He was just a very reserved, insular type of man. So whether he's the type of person you'd want to go for a pint with, I don't know. But I don't get why not more of a fuss made about him. Not just by Everton, but by the football world in general. And it's not on for me.
Ronald Koeman's made a really good point there. When was the last update to the Goodison timeline that goes around Goodison? There hasn't really been anything to say, to be honest. I think the last one is Lukaku signing, isn't it?
the last time I saw it, it was Lukaku, and now that was well over a year ago. I don't know if anything's changed in between then, but
yeah, mate, that was about I've been quite recently. I think I've walked around a few times during the lockdown and gone out for my exercise and walked up to Goodison, and there's nothing there. Like, I'm not sure if there's anything that we can mention though. That's the thing, except maybe Ancelotti. You know what I mean? Because no one's going to put Gylfi Sigurdsson record signing up.
No chance of that. Yeah.
But going back to that, I'm really glad you mentioned Harry Catterick there, Paul, because just looking at I've had a quick look at the squad from that season and how many Everton. This is a who's who of Everton legends. That squad. There's Joe Royle, Gordon West, Tommy Wright, John Hurst, Johnny Morrissey, Alan Ball, Howard Kendall, Brian Labone, Colin Harvey, Sandy Brown, Jimmy Husband, Alan Whittle, Tom Davis's uncle, Tommy Jackson, Keith Newton, Roger Kenyon, Jerry Humphreys, Harry Bennett, Billy Brindle, and Frank Darcy. And like, if I mention that to my granddad, he can give me an in-depth story about every single player, and he always tells me that's his favourite Everton team, and I think that's mine as well. Brian Labone maybe is a shout for an Everton statue, Paul.
Brian Labone, I think, deserves a statue for the simple fact that he chose to get married rather than get a call up for the World Cup and play in the final. A lot of people don't know that. Alf Ramsey wanted him to be in the England squad for the final, and he said, "No, I've set my wedding date, and I'm not changing. I'm not moving it." So he didn't go.
Commitment.
That's commitment. But no, fair play to him. He said, "I'm not dropping my plans just to go and play for England, where I won't get any credit anyway." A lot of players would run there just to get on the bench and get in the photo at the end. And he thought, "Well, no." I don't know if he was going to start in the game, and maybe that would have changed his mind. But the top and bottom of it is he was offered the chance to go and be part of that day, be part of the England squad, get a World Cup winners medal. And he turned his nose up at it because he thought, no, I promised me missus I'm going to get married. And he just won the FA Cup with Everton that summer, hadn't he, at Wembley? So he's probably thought, no, I've had all the glory I want for this summer, thanks. I don't care for the miss out.
I was struggling to think of, when we were talking about statues in the chat a little bit earlier on about players who people believe does deserve a statue at the club, and Brian Labone, that's my one. The man was born in Liverpool, died in Liverpool, played 451 games for Everton. I'll try and find out how many trophies he won, but for me, I think he's got to be, he is the Everton great who doesn't have one, because that Holy Trinity obviously quite deservedly gets spoke about as three of the greatest players in the club's history. As well, we talked about players who don't really, get the credit. Colin Harvey, as even though he's getting a bit older, he come out to unveil the statue, didn't he? And I'd love to see Colin Harvey a little bit more in some sort of capacity, because he's not going to be with us too much longer, and it'd be great to remember that sort of player.
Yeah, Colin was on the coaching staff for years, wasn't he? He took over after Kendall.
Yeah, in the 90s, wasn't it? I think early 90s.
Late 80s, early 90s. He took over when Kendall left in the summer of 87. But he was at the club before then. If you watch Howard's Way, Peter Reid will tell you about how instrumental he was in helping bringing that title-winning side together, and whipping them all into shape in training, and basically turning players who were all, especially ones like Reid and Andy Gray, who'd all been around for a while, and a lot of people thought the best days were behind them. He turned them into the best players in the country, essentially. So, yeah, Colin Harvey, I want to keep him. He is one of those players who's got a seat at the dinner table, hasn't he? And rightfully so. But as you said, don't know how much longer he's going to be here. When he's gone, then that's the Holy Trinity all left us. Now that
yeah, it's sad. Really, is
now
sad.
that Alan Ball and Howard Kendall have gone, so yeah, it's just sad. Like, basically, the three, other than Dixie Dean and maybe Southall, the most famous Everton players ever are the Holy Trinity. When you think of the Holy Grail of Everton legends as players, it's Dixie Dean, then probably Southall from the 80s era, and then the Holy Trinity. And it'll be sad when the Holy Trinity all three of them aren't here anymore.
Yeah, when all three aren't with us anymore. So I think Colin Harvey,
make as big a fuss of them as possible whilst we've still got them.
Yeah, 100%.
We didn't make enough of a fuss of the other two.
No. Bit more on Brian Labone. He was convinced to join Everton instead of going to university. He joined Everton aged 17 in July 1957. He played all bar 2 games in the title-winning season in 63. He was appointed captain in 64, lifted the FA Cup with Everton in 66, and also won the league title in 1970. So if there's any sort of argument for Brian Labone not being honoured with a statue at the new ground or at Goodison Park, I'd like to hear it. Stephen Richardson says John Moores, he also put up millions into Everton and is not remembered. Well, there is the statue of John Moores in the city centre, isn't there? But maybe that is a good argument. John Moores, he's got some of the most famous quotes in Everton history as well about the fans demand success and they'll get success. I can't remember exactly word for word what it is, but I think that's probably a good one. I'd like to see an argument for John Moores. Adam Brooks says Derek Mountfield, anyone? I feel like if I was alive in the 80s, I've always said this, Derek Mountfield would be my favourite Everton player. There's I think it's in Howard's Way, the story about him running down the stairs to answer the phone, and it was Howard Kendall convincing him to join Everton. Derek Mountfield probably should be honoured in some sort of way, shouldn't he? Because there was obviously, I think he gets thrown in just with the group of the 85 team, but maybe as a local lad, maybe you should get a bit more, do you think?
Yeah, he's just a player who I go back to before, who he's loved by Everton fans, but he's not celebrated enough in just general English football folklore. When he was a centre half, didn't he hit double figures in the 85 title winning season?
I think so. Yeah, my dad he's got all the statistics at the top of his head, and he always says Derek Mountfield was a goal scorer and centre half.
How many centre halves in football can you think of who hit double figures and none of those were penalties or they weren't free kick specialists?
And I don't think he was necessarily a big lad either. I think he was just fantastic at jumping. Because when you look at him, he's a pretty small guy compared to Ratcliffe next to him.
Yeah, so why he's never held up as one of the, people mention the likes of Tony Adams and all these other famous players like Hansen and all that who were the same era as him. Mountfield was just as good as them. He's got the medals to back it up. He's got the stats to back it up. How did he never get capped for England? That's something I can't believe, that he never got capped for England once, and he got offered chances to go and play for Ireland and for Wales, but he said no. Thank you for the offer, but I consider myself English. If I play international football, I want to pull on the Three Lions, and it never happened for him, and that's absolutely crazy when you consider some of the centre-halves who we've gone through over the years who couldn't lace his boots and didn't have anywhere near the career he had. So yeah, he's very much up there as one of the greatest English centre-halves of all time. Two-time title winner. Had a goal-scoring centre-half, and why does he never ever get mentioned in these sort of debates about great defenders from the past 30, 40 years? He never does. It's always ex-Arsenal players or ex-United players or ex-Liverpool players.
Because players like Tony Adams, they carry themselves and they appeal to the media and stuff like that. But Mountfield's happy to, be quiet about himself. And do you know what? Another thing to mention about Derek Mountfield, he's fit as a fiddle. I feel like you could put him on a football pitch now and he could still play. When you see pictures of him. In 84-85, he played 47 games and he scored 11 goals from centre-half. That is unbelievable stat, that. He scored 2 in the FA Cup and 9 in the league.
None of them set pieces either, as I said. Not like he took penalties or he hit the odd great free kick. Yeah, they were all headers from corners, which just shows how brilliant he was in the opposition box as well as his own. Stephen
Roberts says Graham Sharp. Graham Sharp, I think, he is honoured at Everton a lot. Won 2 titles at Everton as well, didn't he? In 87, he was still in the team. He still is honoured quite a lot, but maybe a little bit more. I think it's all down to personal preference, isn't it? But, whether for how honoured you think he should be.
He's mates with Kenwright, isn't he? So Sharp's never had to worry about how he's going to take care of himself once his career stops. He's a club ambassador. He was the fans liaison officer at one point.
Something like that, yeah. I remember when I was about 8 or 9, I went to an Everton. It was like a play on the pitch sort of day. It was like you paid your money and you could play at Goodison Park. It was a day there was football training on, and at the end of the day, you got a certificate, and I got my certificate from Graham Sharp, and that was brilliant. It was a lovely fella.
Yeah, everyone who's ever met, I've never met him myself, but everyone who does meet him says he's really nice, and he goes out your way to it. If you go on like the stadium tour or something, or you get invited to what you've just described, he always goes out of his way to like make time for you and stuff. So he's very much at the dinner table. He was the fans liaison officer for a few years, wasn't he? I don't know if he still is. So he's never had to worry about being forgotten about and not looked after. So yeah, great player. As you said, he was part of that epic 80s team, but he's probably not someone who goes home of a night and feels like he's not acknowledged enough. So I don't want to take away from anything he's done, but there's other players who I want to see get some long overdue acknowledgements before we think about honouring him.
It says online that he's just a club ambassador for Everton, and you know that I think there's a lot. I think maybe Ronnie Goodless has got a club ambassador role as well. I'm not too sure what his role is, but I know he gets a lot of
he's like on the radio a lot, isn't he?
Club, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he does work for the BBC as well. Ronnie Goodless, I've seen him. I've heard him on 5 Live a couple of times. So yeah,
I'd like to see Tony Kay get more. Maybe have some sort of role at Everton, because he's one of the older guys who doesn't really, get bantered about too much, and he's quite active on Twitter at the moment, and he's active with the supporters. So I'd like to see maybe someone like him. Liam Munro says Derek Temple and Mike Trebilco both brought glorious memories. Yeah, both in that '66 team, Paul, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and another player who I mentioned who's forgotten about as well. Do you remember John Bailey played in the FA Cup '84? I think Van den Houw took his place at left back this season after, but he doesn't get mentioned either. I saw him on Howard's Way, and that was the first time I'd seen him on anything for years. So I don't know whether again he's one of these people who just prefers his privacy and to not put himself out there. But he's another trophy-winning Evertonian who played in the great sides, and it just seems like a lot of people don't ever think about him or talk about him, and I don't like that.
Yeah, my dad's in the chat there. Colin, Harvey's Everton royalty. He has a go at me for not mentioning him on the stream when he comments. So there you go, Dad. You've had your mention out tonight. And my dad, he knows a bit more about John Bailey than I do. Dad, if you've got anything to say about John Bailey, put it in the chat now. Robert Hayes says, Graham Stewart, 2 goals, which kept us up. Yeah, I think he got Everton legend status mainly off that. Although he was a good player for us, he stepped up and took a penalty against Wimbledon, didn't he? So I think he gets he does deserve the credit. But then again, he has got a big role at Everton. Still a massive figure at Everton. He's always there on the match days in his suit around the fan zone and stuff like that. And people get the photos with him, and he's always, he lives up to his nickname, the Diamond, because he's a really nice guy. Mike Trebilco, the BBC had to call him. They weren't allowed to say Treblecock. Crazy. Loads of people get his name wrong as well, don't they, Paul? Let's see if we've got any more. Oh, as well, I forgot to mention Graham Sharp as well. There's that story of him on the team bus, wasn't there? I think it was the FA Cup where he went into a Liverpool fan's house to use the toilet or something like that. That's on Howard's Way. So
yeah, I think that was '86 when they lost. They had the Liverpool coach, and then they had the Everton coach behind it, and he had to run off and basically you go in someone's house to the toilet, and like the woman who answered the door, like obviously doesn't know who he is, just let him in, and then he was coming out the toilet, and like the man of the house, her husband, was a red. Obviously got the shock of his life, thinking, what's this player who plays some of our rivals doing in my house? So imagine if you were in your house and I don't know, Robert Firmino was just suddenly, you walked out your bedroom and Robert Firmino was walking out your toilet, and he was on your lander, and you think, who let you in? Do you know what I mean?
I'd probably be blinded by his teeth. I wouldn't be able to see him. Joe Royle took them from the depths of despair to the steps of Wembley. Went from mid-August to the 1st of November without winning a single match in 1994. Joe changed all beyond our wildest dreams. Another survivor from that 1969-70 team as well, Michael. Joe Royle, a very young, I think he's one of the youngest goal scorers in Everton history, or if not, one of the youngest appearance makers.
Yeah, and he's like Kendall, where he won silverware as a player and as a manager, and not many club legends, not just at Everton, that loads of clubs do that. When you've managed to do both, then you basically, you're royalty as far as that club. A lot of teams have managers who come and go, who maybe nick a cup, or players who come and go, who get a medal, but it's very easy to forget about them. And if you do both, you're the manager and you won as a player, then you're ensuring that everyone's memory of you is always positive forever. There'll be no one who looks at you thinking, oh yeah, he was here for a little bit, he won a trophy, but he's not. He wasn't very good. He was just kind of there when and other players did the work. When you're a manager and you're a player and you win silverware with both, then basically you get a lot of the credit that goes into that.
Mm-hmm. Adam Brooks says, which current Everton player deserves a chance by the fans? I was thinking about this during the derby the other night, because there's that video of Richarlison. Yeah, there's that video of Richarlison singing his song to a Brazilian reporter, and the Brazilian reporter laughing his head off. There's a lot of players. James Rodriguez would have a chance. Ben Godfrey would probably just be one of the dead simple ones. Like, do you remember when was it Leighton Baines, and people just used to shout Bainesy at him or something like that, because he's one of those players you could never. There was never like a properly like function song for him, but Godfrey would get one.
There wasn't like a signature one like Coleman's got, or
lots of great ones over the years,
like
though.
I always liked Arteta's as well. So
Arteta's
a player who does I can't wait to get back in the stadium and see what people come up with Godfrey, because if it's a crap one, then because we have had some good players who had crap chants, I don't want his one to be rubbish. When you want to get a great player, he's got to have something like a sort of chant where you just love singing it on like an away day, especially if it's away and you're just sing it on a train in front of loads of like really befuddled locals.
It's the best feeling in the world. I remember
singing 60 grand Seamus Coleman on the Lil.
No one knows actually what you're talking about. Yeah, brilliant. I remember. There was a train coming home from Wigan, which is a pre-season friendly last year that I was on, and that was a brilliant train journey home. That I think the game was 0-0, but everyone was just made up, and it was middle of summer. Everyone had too much to drink, and that was a great one. There's a couple. I'm trying to think. I had one in my head. Then the Tom Davis one sounds good. He's slick. He's scousy. Skateboards around the house. That one sounds good. I'm looking forward to hearing that one when he comes back. Stephen Johnston says, I knocked on Brian Labone's door as a 10-year-old for an autograph. He said, no problem. What a gent. He owned a horse called the Goodison. Does sound like Brian Labone, to be fair, Stephen, and that's a great story. If you've met any Everton players as well, guys, I think I was trying to ask. I think it was Rob from City Extra. I asked him about any football players that he'd met, and he could not name any, and I can't either. I never seem to meet any. But if you've ever met any Everton players and you want to mention them to us, I'll read them out on the stream. QWERTY says, hello, I'm Italian. Thanks for joining the stream. We're a massive fan of Italians at Everton at the moment, with Carlo Ancelotti and David as well. Ethan says, do you know where I can watch the meeting from today? I don't. I didn't watch it in real time. I just seen all the fallout from it on Twitter. But no, I'm not sure, Ethan, but I'm sure if you find somewhere online, they'll have it. Kevin Sheedy. Sorry, mate, go on.
I think the Echo had like little clips from today.
Thing or
on their
something.
If you go on their website, I think they've got like little clips, especially that part where the councillor, I can't remember his name, someone Hansen, basically just ripped into Heritage England. I think the Echo on their social media somewhere, I've got a clip of that if you want to go and look it up.
Chris P says Kevin Sheedy. Kevin Sheedy will always be a great one, won't he? Trevor Stephen as well. The two wingers from that side who probably don't get as much credit as they deserve. Kevin Sheedy's spoken about a lot between Evertonians, but maybe not as much as we'd like by the club. I'd just love to see, when we move to Bramley-Moore, a who's who of Everton royalty on the pitch. It'd just be amazing. Go on, Paul.
When the last ever game at Goodison, I'd like us to do something that West Ham done. The last game at the Bowling Ground, where they just had loads of ex-players from loads of different generations just come out on the pitch at the end. West Ham had the likes of like Marlon Harewood and Kieran Dyer and people like that. You know what I mean? It's like stuff you sort of giggle behind your hands at. Do you know what I mean? Thinking, oh my God. Like,
it would be brilliant. It'd be brilliant if they put on like a real show. Maybe, say for example, like it's a night game or something like that. If they open the doors at like 3:00 in the afternoon and just let people get in the stadium, and they had like a stage with live music on, and they had people coming out, legends coming out, and maybe with a microphone talking about Goodison Park, stuff like that. And it was just a big, long thing. It'd be brilliant just to do. It'd be amazing. And they could, sell DVDs of it and stuff like that. Because when you're losing a ground like Goodison Park, over 125 years of history, I think you can't You can't just
Yeah.
let it go with one match, can you? Stephen Roberts says, I could sit up all night listening to you two talk about Everton. Thank you, Stephen. It's really nice that you're supporting the stream. We'll keep going for a bit longer. Live vid, I think that's how you pronounce that, says Stuart, great cup final assist. Michael, we've read Michael Green's out already. See if we've got any more.
Stuart hit the bar from like 5 yards out. I don't think it was an assist. I think it was a missed shot, wasn't it? And luckily Paul Rideout was there to tap it in.
Yeah, I think that's his point. It was the best, worst assist ever. Went to the team hotel in Dublin before we played UCD en route to Euro Glory. Invited by Big Nev to sit in and get autographs with the whole team. Starstruck. That's a brilliant story. That I think we almost went out to University College Dublin. My dad always tells me, he was like, "Oh yeah, we won the European Cup Winners' Cup, but we almost went out to UCD or something like that." He always tells me. Peter Reid, met him 4 times. Great lad. I reckon Peter Reid would be a great guy to sit and have a drink with. I bet he's got some great stories.
A drink or 4, yeah.
Or 10. He just seems like a really nice fella. One of my favourite Everton players. He's a brilliant player. I've met Derek Mountfield in my old school. I've met Tom Davis and Leighton Baines in Bold Street Cafe. That's where you're going to meet them. I've met Leighton Baines a few times. And he's just, he will always be my Everton idol. Absolutely love the guy. He shaped me, not just in football, as an Evertonian, but just everywhere. He's just, his influence lives on with me all the time, no matter how long he stays at the club as a coach or whatever. And he's met Derek Mountfield as well. That's a really good one. The Esk will be joining Terry and Thomas this week on our channel to go through the stadium news in more detail. Keep your eyes out for that one, guys. My dad there, Stephen, says quality left back John Bailey, but unfortunately lost his place to Van den Houw. As Paul said there. Everton being quite lucky with left backs as well, Paul, haven't we? We never seem to really have any bad left backs.
No, all our great sides have all had quality left backs in them. And as your dad said then, Bailey was a really good player in his own right, and it's sad that he's kind of been forgotten about because Pat Van den Houw came in and took his place in the team, but there was not many left backs in the world who could have come in and displaced them, and Pat Van den Houw was sadly one of them. But they're together, aren't they, on the Howard's Way DVD, where I think they're talking to Bailey and they have Pat Van den Houw kind of come and sit beside him to like kind of celebrate.
Oh, I've seen that.
Kind of surprise him type thing, because he's in a joking type way. He says, "Oh, I hated it when Pat Van den Houw came. I hated him because he took my place off me." And he's joking when he says it, like he's laughing. And then Pat Van den Houw just comes and sits beside him, and he's like, "Oh, is this a wind up? Like, did you get me saying all that on purpose?" But yeah, John Bailey, another Scouse Evertonian, local fella who won a trophy for the club.
Couple of people talking about Ben Godfrey. It seems to be every single stream we talk about Ben Godfrey. Ben Godfrey could have played in the mid-80s team. Winner. Yeah, if it was up to me, he'd be club captain very soon, because the lad is just an absolute leader. And then we've got X2, who's a Norwich fan. Congratulations on your 3-1 win over Birmingham. They've gone 10 points clear at the top of the championship tonight. It was looking at TNC a bit earlier. Chris and Jack talking about Norwich. Yeah, and 3-1 win for Norwich there. And we will make time at the end of the stream, guys, to talk about Max Aarons. He is in the thumbnail, and we will make some time to talk about him, but it's interesting to hear some of your Everton stories. Eugene McGeever, I think he's an Irish Evertonian. He met Seamus Coleman in Lifford, I think that is, back in Ireland back in the day. That's a really good one. Seamus seems like a lovely fella to meet.
Yeah, it was that back when Seamus was playing Gaelic football before he moved over and got his...
let us know, Eugene. Let us know when you met him.
Yeah, he's been in Liverpool since we bought him for the famous 60 grand. But a lot of people don't know that Coleman actually played Gaelic football before he went professional.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
A lot of people don't know that he's played for 3 clubs, hasn't he? He's played for Sligo, Blackpool and Everton. So he's often mentioned on Sky as like a one-club guy, but he's not.
No, he was part of the Blackpool team that won promotion. So, I mean, I'm not an expert on Blackpool. I'm not an expert on Blackpool. I don't know who they consider to be their legends, but I've never really known them to be a club that's been in the top flight much. So, if you're a club that got promoted, if you're a club like them that's been out of the top flight for a lot of years, I'd consider the team that was the last team to get promoted. I consider them to be a pretty big deal. So Coleman's probably one of those players. If Coleman went to Blackpool, I'm sure they'd welcome him with open arms. He probably can't buy a drink in Blackpool if he ever went there.
Yeah, I think Seamus Coleman could go a lot of places except for Anfield, and he couldn't buy a drink because he's just such a nice fella on the surface. My dad there saying you were mascot at Anfield. Yeah, I mentioned it in the Liverpool stream, so I try not to talk about it too much because there's plenty of people who've heard it before. But I did meet quite a few Evertonians there, and Everton players. Sorry, there was the likes of Leon Osman was in there, Phil Neville, Moyes, obviously, basically the entire squad from that 2013 side. And that was proper surreal as a 12-year-old meeting all them. Like Oviedo and Naismith and stuff like that. I remember asking John Stones as well, back when he was about 19 or something. And I said to him, how are you finding? And he just signed like a few months ago. He signed in the January and this was in May. I said to him, what do you think of Everton so far, John? And he was like, I just want to play, to be honest. And after that, after Moyes went, he couldn't get out the team. He seemed to play every single game. So, and now he's tearing up trees at Man City. So, X2 says Max Aarons is going if we don't get promoted, but he won't because we are going back to the Premier League. It certainly looks that way, X2. It looks like you're going to win the league at this rate. Brentford have fell off a little bit, and City have taken advantage of that, and they seem to be looking like they're gonna get up and back up in the Premier League, and hopefully Carrow Road will be an away day next season once supporters are allowed back. Adam Brooks says, oh my Godfrey, so much buzz about Godfrey. Adam, he fully deserves it all. The lad is an absolute monster. Just watching him the other night at Anfield, he just I don't know, he seems to get better every single game. Unbelievable. Aaron Spark says, who is your favourite ever striker? I'm not sure if you mean Everton striker or just striker in general, but we'll talk about Everton strikers. Paul, who's your favourite ever Everton striker?
For 6 months, it was Jelavic.
Yeah.
When we signed him in the January until the end of that season, mate, I don't think I've ever fallen in love with a player more, and I don't think I've ever been more devastated to see a player drop off. If we had Jelavic for that 6 months, if you'd offered me that version of Jelavic or Lukaku, I'd have that version of Jelavic. And I know he wasn't the player Lukaku was, and he only scored one type of goal, but it was so gorgeous to watch, honestly. Maybe I'm in the minority with that, but for 6 months, Nikica Jelavic for me was the best.
2011-12, wasn't it? There was like the game against Fulham. I remember he ripped Fulham to bits at Goodison.
His debut goal against Tottenham is one of the best goals I've ever seen.
I always remember him when we signed him from Rangers and him coming out. I think it was against City, the game where Darren Gibson scored the winner. And he came out on the pitch at half time with his scarf and that, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he'd had his medical earlier on in the day, and then basically the club had just been silent for hours, and all the media were all saying they didn't know where he was. So Evertonians, being Evertonians, just assumed the worst and thought the deal had collapsed and he was on his way back to Glasgow, when in reality he was just in the city centre having a shower and getting changed before he was going to the stadium to get unveiled. So that was a bit of a surreal day. But yeah, Jelavic for the first few months after we signed him, mate, I haven't had a player on the back of my shirt for years and years now. Not since I was like 11, but that's the closest I've ever come, getting Jelavic on the back of my shirt with the number 7, because Everton haven't had. We've got one now in Richarlison.
He did as well, didn't he? Proper suited it.
We've got one in Richarlison now, but the number 7 isn't historically a famous number for Everton. And
no, it's always been 7 is Liverpool's number and 9 is Everton's number, isn't it? Sort of.
Yeah, but I was happy for once to have a number 7 that in the team that everyone just adored and wanted to be. And I thought, right, we finally got our own legend who's going to make that. We've got a player who's going to turn that number into a legendary number at the club now, and it's sadly it just didn't last, did it?
To be fair, though, as sad as it was to see him fall off that goal against Man City, he sort of came back, didn't he? And it was a bit like a phoenix rising from the flames. We got brought on and we were 1-0 up against City, and he looped the ball over Joe Hart and we won that game 2-0. That was amazing. That was one of the best celebrations I've ever seen in Goodison. That Colin says, Paul, how did your bottle of Jim Beam go? I think it was Jack Daniels, wasn't it, Paul?
I haven't drank it all yet, but I've got through most of it, so that's how it's gone.
Yeah, I can't drink it, mate. It makes me really, really sick. It's just, but it's always been one of those I really, really wanted to drink, and it always makes me really sick. So, more so than like wine and stuff like that. But Eugene says the yak was brilliant. Growing up, he was the first Everton striker I remember. Yakubu, still really, flies the Everton flag on Twitter as well. He's got this season's home shirt. He was watching the derby on Saturday night. And Yakubu, yeah, he's another one. And Achibi as well seems to be, he seems to involve himself with Evertonians a lot recently. X2's asking us a bit more about Norwich. Sorry, mate, go on.
I was just going to say, Yakubu, best game he ever had for Everton was in the last derby win before the one we've just had, the 2-0 Arteta Kale. He didn't score on the day, but he absolutely destroyed Liverpool's defence. Kyriakos and Skrtel. He just bullied the pair of them. I think for Kale's goal, the first one at the Gladys Street end, he just barged Skrtel off the ball, completely sent him flying into the stand. And one possession back in their final third, knocked the ball out to Coleman. Coleman chipped the cross in, and Kale was there to finish it.
The Kale goal at the Gladys Street, yeah. Do you know what's funny as well? After we won on Saturday night, there was Sky Sports have got a retro YouTube channel where they upload old interviews, and they uploaded the post-match interview from that game with Kale and Neville. It was, and they were talking about it, and they were asking me and it was crazy because it always gets bandied about how we never beat them, and it made me realise how long ago it actually was, seeing them two. It was like Lecoq Sportif shirts and that. And mad.
Great,
Semi-Charm Life, thanks for joining the stream again, mate. He's a big supporter of the Toffee Blues live streams. He says, I loved Naismith while he was with the club. Naisy was boss. I loved Stephen Naismith. I was a massive Stephen Naismith supporter. Still am. Really like the guy. I'll always say we sold him a bit too early because, Martinez sold him to Norwich, didn't he? It was 8 million. And I think he just wanted to go, and I'm not sure if it was a playing thing or whatever, but I think he still had a lot to offer Everton when he left.
I think he was sold at the right time, but it looked like a bad move because the player we brought in to replace him was absolutely hopeless. It was Niasse, wasn't it?
Oh, Niasse, that was it, yeah.
It was Niasse, yeah.
It was Leandro Rodriguez.
No, it was Niasse. So I actually think that was smart business when we done it, because I know he'd scored that hat-trick against Chelsea earlier on in the campaign, but that final few months he was at the club, he hadn't really done anything, even in the games that he'd started. So
I think it was, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the first season under Koeman. I mean, I was thinking maybe Naismith could have probably had a role in this team, but he probably would have frozen him out, to be honest, like he did with Delafeu and with Niasse. So maybe, knowing that we were going to get rid of Martinez at the end of that season, Naismith probably didn't have too much more to give, with the fact that Ronald Koeman, who just seemed to hate players, just seemed to hate football players. Have you ever seen that, Paul, a manager who hates football players? With him coming in next, it never seemed like he was going to do it.
Interesting little thing about Naismith at the end of that season. The final game was after Martinez had been sacked. It was when Unsworth took charge with Joe Royle, and we played Norwich on the final day, and we won 3-0. I think, and Naismith was in the Norwich team. It was Tim Howard's last game, his big send off, and then he had his farewell at the end and his guard of honour. Naismith actually stayed out on the pitch with the rest of the Everton players.
Yeah, I remember that.
Guard of honour.
Remember that? He scored in the League Cup, didn't he? He scored against us in the League Cup the season after and got a round of applause.
Yeah, which I didn't mind. A load of people went mad.
I didn't mind it because I just liked the guy. I just think, as well, he was another one of people talking about Davis and Bainesy out on Bold Street feeding the homeless on Sunday morning. And Naismith was like that. Every Christmas he'd deliver food to the homeless shelter, and he'd sit down and have meals with homeless people, in the soup kitchens and that, and have Christmas dinners and stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, just a brilliant human being, and just a fella who had all the class in the world as a person. Had his limitations as a footballer, but as you said, it still had something to offer a team, and had more good performances than bad ones if you probably counted them all up, and scored some really important goals and had some absolutely brilliant days for us. And going back to what we just touched on, the goal that he scored against us for Norwich in the Cup against Koeman's Everton, I remember I was there on the night, and loads of fans went mad because he got a bit of a round of applause off the Gladys Street. I mean, his goal was just some freak. It took a deflection and it looped over Martin Sketlenberg and went in. But just adding context to that, because a lot of people were like, "What are we doing, clapping a player who's knocking us out the cup? Oh, that's just typical Everton. That why do we why do we boo our own players and clap players who are playing against us?" But I didn't agree with that. I mean, that goal, when it happened, was very early in the game. I think it was inside the first 15 minutes. And
I think I remember it.
The game hadn't really built up a head of steam yet. There was no suggestion. There was no way watching that first 15 minutes you'd known that Everton were going to go on to lose. It didn't look like we weren't under the cosh or anything like that. No one was playing particularly badly by that point. So he got a round of applause because fans fully expected us to go on and win the game anyway. If he'd scored that in the last minute, or he'd have scored that to put us 2 or 3 down and we're getting battered, then he wouldn't have got the round of applause. He got a round of applause off the fans who were very settled, didn't think the game was going to get away from us, and accepted that the goal was just rotten luck for us. There was nothing to keep it out.
It was the 41st minute of the EFL Cup third round, and we got beat 2-0. Yeah,
was it that late in the game? I knew it was
remember
the first half.
Being early on. I do remember it being early on.
Yeah, but all right, it wasn't as early as I thought it was. I thought it was in the first 15 minutes. But the point I was making was, it wasn't when that goal went in. That wasn't the goal that was killing the game for us. It wasn't in the last minute. It wasn't putting the result beyond us. I think if that had been the case, then fans would have been every right to get a bit narky with people who were clapping. But the point I'm trying to make is, it was a goal that just happened out of nowhere in a game that we still had all the time in the world to win, and it just reeked of fans just moaning for the sake of moaning. It's like people weren't standing up singing his name, and
it's always the way. You know what?
Yeah,
Evertonians have just got a knack of moaning for the sake of moaning. It's always going to be the way, and it's always going to happen. And I'll read you a little quote from that game, Paul. Everton manager Ronald Koeman: "Of course, I'm not happy about the result, because in cup football you don't get a second chance, but we did everything to score." That just screams we gave up, doesn't it? That's just typical dough ball Koeman, that.
Well, it's his own fault, because we had no Europe that season, and if he really wanted to get in the Evertonians' good books, all he had to do was take the cup seriously, because he had a squad that was a mess, because that was the one Martinez left him. So no one was really expecting him to do anything in the league. So if he'd have done a cup run, it would have got the fans behind him. And obviously he wasn't the least bit bothered, was he? He wasn't bothered about bringing success for the club, but he was just bothered about making himself look good. So
yeah, he was one of the most poorly remembered Everton supporters. And the first season wasn't that bad. We were pretty good in the first season. I think we finished 7th, which is actually our highest finish for a while. So
it was a strange season, that. Like, it's in a way sort of similar to this season, just without the big results. It's strange in this season where we'd win games, then we'd lose games, then we'd win, then we'd lose, and fans, like, emotions were all over the place. One minute everyone was really excited, thinking we could kick on, and then the next minute everyone was acting like we were going to go down. It was just a strange year. We had a squad that wasn't very good, apart from 1 or 2, like Lukaku, and I think we still had Ross Barkley at that point, and Phil Jagielka and Baines were still about. So we just had a manager who won the games he needed to win at home, and couldn't for the life of him go away and come up with any sort of game plan to get a result in a big game like the derby, which is sort of the opposite to what we've got under Ancelotti now. We're losing all the so-called easy games at Goodison, but we're going away to the likes of United and the likes of Tottenham and the likes of Liverpool and putting in these great showings. But the big difference is we've got a manager who we all believe in and who we all have time for personally, and who we all think has got a long-term plan. Whereas with Koeman, it just felt like we'll have to just go with this and see where we end up, because this fella clearly doesn't care about us. But hopefully he can find a way to just, if he makes himself look, the only way he can make himself look good is if he gets us winning. And if he gets us winning, then fair enough.
Yeah, and as I said, the Flying Dutchman coming out a few weeks ago and calling the fans delusional. Yeah, well, he got what he deserved. Moise Keane put him in the mud in the Champions League last week. So, yeah. And he asked for this fantastic Instagram story post where have you seen it, Paul?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well in Umar.
Yeah, Umar, get that man back and get that man a locker right now. Let's see if we've got any more. I know X2 in the chat, if you're still in the chat, mate, it's time for us to talk about Max Aarons. Yeah, but he wants to know what we think of Norwich. I think Norwich will come back up. and I am excited to see them come back up. Mainly because I'm really excited to talk Norwich City next year if they do come back up on one of our match previews, because I've always been a massive fan of Jack and Chris Reeve. But Max Aarons, Paul, we've spoken about him a lot. I've got a few statistics about him as well that I'll read out to you. It's got to be great signing if it happens, surely.
Yeah, it should be. He's 21, isn't he? So you'd think if he's the player that we all hope he'd be, then that would be our right back position sorted for 10 years. But I haven't got my heart set on him where if we end up getting someone else, I'd be disappointed. If the club want to buy him and the club feel they can get him, then yeah, brilliant, go for it. But if the club decide to step away and not bid for him, or if we get beat to him, because I've heard a lot of other clubs are in for him as well, I'm not too concerned.
Namely,
Bayern Munich
and Man United as well have apparently scouting him. According to Fabrizio Romano, who we know is incredibly reliable when it comes to football transfer rumours, he just says Everton interested in Aarons, but it's going to be a long journey because Bayern Munich, who I think we're interested in the summer, are up for signing Max Aarons, and also United have been scouting him. A couple of stats about him, Paul. He's 21 years old, born in 2000. He's got 7 caps for England under 21. He has played every single game this season for Norwich City, who are top of the league. As I said, 10 points clear. 1 goal, 3 assists. He's got 36 Premier League appearances as well. So for a player of his age, he's incredibly experienced. And of course, as I said, the 10 points clear. So yeah, he's a hot prospect certainly, and I'd be very much up for us signing him because I think he's the best option for us at the moment because we do need a right back.
Well, yeah, when you look at his numbers in terms of the amount of first team games he's played, he's full-blooded, don't you? He's not the type of player who he could cut. If we did throw him in there, it would take time for him to adjust. He's played in the Premier League already, and he's played at the top of the Championship, so it's not going to be some sort of culture shock for him to come into a team that's in the top half looking to play in Europe, or if we are playing in Europe. But going back to what I said, I'm happy if the club want to go all out for him and spend what they think is sensible for him. But if for some reason it doesn't happen because Norwich don't want to sell him, or they demand too much money, or some other club gets in there first, I'm happy if the club go and get someone else, because I'm absolutely sure Marcel Brands will have alternatives. And look what happens when we didn't get back Gabriel. I mean, that was pretty much done before the pandemic, and we ended up having to abandon the deal because the pandemic changed the lay of the land. We had to basically rethink how we were going to spend our finances. We couldn't spend the fee we were going to spend on him, or whatever fee we'd agreed. We obviously couldn't commit to that anymore, and we ended up going and get Ben Godfrey instead. So
I was just going to say, we ended up replacing him with a player who I'd much rather have right now.
Yeah, so yeah, if he comes in, great. If he doesn't come in, I'm not concerned, because I'm absolutely sure Marcel Brands has got other players on his shortlist, and the club will have a trick up the sleeve. So whatever right back we do sign in the summer, because we will. I know Coleman's on the mountaintop right now. He's just captained Everton to a win at Anfield, and everyone's made up with him again. But I still feel the way I feel about Coleman, in the sense that I think he's on his way. I think he's on his way down as a player still. It might have his uses next season if we do keep him around, especially if we're in Europa League and we need to play him in those games. But Everton need a first choice right back still. And
I think what needs to happen is a first choice right back, someone like Aarons. This one here right now reeks of Luca Dean coming in to replace Leighton Baines, who came in, wasn't in the team immediately, came in, and just as soon as he got in, he couldn't get out again. So if Max Aarons is the option, then Coleman's there. He's there as a figure in the dressing room, because as we've seen this season on some of Alex Iwobi's Snapchat stories, he's a very passionate guy in the dressing room. He seems to always be bouncing around, jumping on people's backs and stuff like that in those videos. So I think he probably will stay at the club a bit longer, and he'd be our club captain for a little bit longer. But I do expect us to get someone else in the summer. Ronald Koeman there says Djibril Sidibé, anybody? I remember when he it was announced he was leaving Monaco, and some people were actually suggesting him. And I couldn't believe that.
You just answered my question for me, mate. I was going to ask you then: is he still at Monaco, or obviously he's not?
I think
now?
he's still. I'm not sure. I know it said that Monaco. I don't know if he's still there, Paul, but I know I can't remember if it was January or the one just gone, but it said that I think it was January actually. It said Djibril Sidibé, Monaco want to sell him. And everyone was like, would you have him back? And I was like, yeah. Someone was like, yeah, go on and have him back. I was like, that's just going backwards, really, isn't it?
Well, we knew they wanted to sell him 18 months ago because he came to us on loan with a very low optional fee in the deal. So we knew they wanted rid of him well before now. He's still I think he's at Lille now. I've just looked up, and Lille are flying high, aren't they? Are they still top of the league?
Yeah, I think PSG have fallen a couple of points behind. But wish him all the best. I'm hoping that he does well. He obviously suits French football. They're 3 points clear of Lyon and 4 points clear of PSG at the top of League One. So, yeah, interesting one.
Fair play to him.
Eugene,
staying with Lille and could end up staying with Lille and getting himself a league winners medal. And you get a league winners medal in France and it's not with PSG, then that's something to be really proud of. So fair play to Sidibé. He came in, he gave it his all. He seemed like a good character, but that's the whole point of a loan deal. You test before you buy. We tested him and realised he wasn't what we were looking for. So we sent him back, shook his hand, thanked him for his time, and we've moved on.
Yeah, Eugene in the chat there, what's your favourite ever Everton shirt of all time? I think I asked you this on the podcast a few weeks ago, Paul, because we did one of those questionnaires. By the way, go check out the Toffee Blues podcast on Spotify if you haven't already. It's basically just all the week's YouTube content wrapped up into like a big special. It's always good to, if you even if you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, to go over and listen to it. And it's always a good listen while you're working or while you're out on a walk or whatever like that. You get all that content bunched up into the one thing, and that's all your week's content there. But anyway, what's your favourite ever Everton shirt of all time? For me, I think maybe that like 69-70 kit, which was just a plain blue shirt, and they were long sleeved with the white crew neck. Because I do like simplicity in a kit, but Paul's got it on. This season's kit takes some beating as well.
Yeah, and I like this kit. This is the best one we've had for a while. I mean, when it was announced we were going to Hummel, I wasn't too sure because I couldn't think of any other examples in the Premier League or even in
nice Rangers kits, but that's about it.
Hummel basically were just a bit of an unknown quantity when it came to making kits, and I was unsure what they were going to do with Everton because we've been very hit and miss. I mean, I personally didn't like Umbro. I didn't like Nike.
No.
Lecoq Square Teeth had more good kits than bad. But Terry's absolutely fanatical about kits. I mean, I don't know if you spoke to him about it, but he talked to
I've actually asked Terry the same set of questions I asked you on the podcast, and you both talk about your first kit because you ask Paul a question, you ask Terry the question, you probably get the same answer. You both had the kit from, I think it was the last year of Kaijan or something like that, wasn't it? That was both of your first kits.
03, 04, yeah, Moyes' second season, and that was our first one. I had Wayne Rooney, Terence had Tomas Rosiński. That kit was an alright kit. I always think of being like a really little boy. Whenever I see that kit on social media where it pops up, I always remember being like 7, 8, like primary school age, thinking, yeah, I was a really young boy when we had that. It takes me back to being very, very little. Whereas kits with Chang on it always remind me of being like a teenager and being in secondary school. And this badge that we've got now, since we've had this badge, this always reminds me of being like a young adult. Like I've left school and I'm sort of like a young man now. So like certain kits always remind me of being a certain age. And I like this one. I mentioned on the podcast a few weeks ago, I liked that one that we had in, I think it was 05, 06. I mean, it wasn't a good season. It was, I always remember, I always picture it on James Beattie. Whenever I think of that kit, I always think of that team that had James Beattie in it and Mikel Arteta and Cahill when he was in his prime and stuff. It wasn't a good season, but it had like white on here and around the collar, and I just thought it looked really smart. I liked that one. And I also liked the one we had in 08, 09, where we got to the cup final with the white across the
That's my answer. Yeah, 0809, because that was my first season, and that was my first name I got on the back of my shirt was Yakubu 22. On the back of that 0809 on the back of that shirt. But going to, I actually did an article a few years ago about Everton away kits, and I ranked every single Everton away kit. I think I did like a poll on Twitter. It was like a World Cup style knockout thing. And I did so basically I took all the away kits. I basically put out a tweet, give us your Everton away kits. What's your favourite Everton away kits? Got lots of replies, put them all into like a knockout format and did like a poll on Twitter, basically like a tournament tree thing where people voted what their favourite was. And then I ranked the top 10 in an article on the Toffee Blues website. So go check that out if you haven't already. That was a lot of work went into that one. It was fun. And there's then 19...
Yeah, I don't know if you can see this, but it's on my wall. I'll move my camera.
Oh, yeah, Paul's poster. Yeah, go on. That might jog me memory a bit, mate.
Can you see that? Is that clear?
Yeah, go for it. So it's the 93-4 away kit seems to be a popular one with people. The white one with the stripes going down the front. That one seems to be quite popular. Yeah, that's a popular one. 85-6, the NEC yellow one is a popular one.
I don't like that one because that's obviously the one where we came runner up to Liverpool in the cup and the. I like yellow. Kit.
Yeah, it is. It's the white bib kit, isn't it? And there's the 60s ones for me are all the best. I don't think anything tops the 60s kits. They're all my favourite. There's a couple like the salmon pink one. Yeah, the all blue one. The 83 to 85 away kit, which was grey with the little blue V. But the home, that one there, that one's nice. The Hafnia ones from the early 80s as well are quite good. Blue Nose Dublin's asking in the chat, where did you get the poster, Paul?
Terry got me it for Christmas, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So you have to ask Terry on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm just looking for that kit.
He'll answer your question.
I'm just looking for the kit that we wore in 05, 06. I mean, it's that one here, but that's not the one I meant. That was the one that had the white under the the sleeves.
There's the one next to that as well, Paul, which was the one that was a different colour when it got rained on.
That one?
No, the yellow one next to the 050, that one there. Whenever it got rained on it, when it got rained on it, it went dark, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the one I meant. 06, 07, I got the years mixed up. That was one we wore, I think, in the 3-0 with Andy Johnson. That season, 06, 07. That's probably my favourite Everton kit because I just thought it looked really smart. You can't really see it.
Yeah, it's got goalkeeper kits on that as well, which I didn't notice. That 09-10. I remember I used to have that kit with Tim Howard's name on the back. The green one with the black one. There's also the purple kit, the Reece Jones Memorial kit. That was a really nice one. Remember that one came in a commemorative box as well, which was cool because that's never happened before. 14-15 is a standout home kit for me. I really love that one. Yeah, it was a nice. It had navy socks as well, which was a winner for me. Yeah,
that one. I don't know why that's come out wrong on the poster, but that one was actually white with purple shorts and purple socks.
No, I think that's the goalkeeper kit. You know,
the purple one.
That one there, yeah. Because look above it. Above it is the goalkeeper from 09-10. And I was wondering why they put a goalkeeper shirt as the third kit because we did have the white one in the Eto season. It was white with goalkeeper kits. Yeah, and there's a few goalkeeper kits on there, and one of them was that.
Do you remember that?
The pink 10-11 one, yeah. Well, I was wondering as well, did we have a third kit this season? That season?
Yeah, it was like a vanilla one. It was like vanilla.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a lovely kit. That was lovely.
We beat Chelsea on penalties, didn't we?
Beat Chelsea in the cup on penalties. Yeah, Bainesy as well with his free kick.
Sadly, that's not on here for some reason, but that one's my favourite ever.
Lovely kit.
That's my favourite non-Everton kit. I think we only wore it once, the commemorative Reece Jones one, but it was
Tottenham away in the League Cup. Yeah, Tottenham away in the League Cup. I remember.
It was gorgeous, that one. And another one that I liked as well.
Sorry, Paul. Yeah, go on.
Another one I liked as well was that one. We didn't wear that much, but that was proper amber and black.
A little bit, mate. Oh, yeah,
it was amber and
I think it was either black or very dark
like
navy blue.
Yeah, and we wore that away at West Brom. I remember it was my first ever away day. My dad took me to West Brom. It was the end of the 10-11 season, and we were wearing next season's away kit for the first time, and it was that one, and we got beat, I think, 2-1 or something, 2-0 or something like that. And that was my first away day.
Do you remember that one? The one
that was lovely, that one. The black one with the little purple stripe, the little pink stripes in. And the club obviously thought, oh, the fans like pink, let's next season. And they just hit us with a full pink kit.
I always think of Lewis Saha wearing that one.
I always think of Stevie Pienaar. I think of Pienaar in the Europa League. Because I remember we were in the Europa League that season. And I think it was, I can't remember who we were playing now. And we were kicking off at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon it was. And it was like, it was such a strange time because it was obviously abroad. And I remember it was, 3 o'clock. So I had to run home from school to make kickoff.
I think I know what you mean. It was a team in the qualifying round, wasn't it? Who we beat 4-0 at Goodison, where Rodwell scored 2 long ranges, and then we went to their place. And
then Pienaar, I think Pienaar might have scored in the game, and that's why that kit always reminds me of him. But Toffee Blues John there in the chat says, if you want a kit from this season and want to support the Toffee Blues, you can get 50% off on your home, away, and third kits on the official Everton store. Link is at the top. Go and get on it because there's some really good deals as well. So yeah, go and get on to that one. Last of the Corinthians, 1878 says, the 21-22 Premier League champions Everton kit will be a nice one. Yeah, and we'll get the nice Sigma Olomouc. Yeah, John's just confirmed it there. Sigma Olomouc it was, yeah. Can't remember what the score was in the game. But 1-1. 1-1? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one because I watched that in my dad's after school. Like you, I rushed round to my dad's to watch it, and I think I'd missed Pienaar's opening goal, which came very early. That put us 5-0 up on aggregate, and they got a consolation in the second half. But my dad was a red, and I remember him not wanting the game on because obviously why would he want to watch Everton? But I remember saying, Dad, let me watch the game. Like, I've come round to watch it, and him being a Liverpool supporter saying, you're already 4-0 up from the first leg and you're playing a reserve team. Why do you want to watch that? Like, the tie's done and it's not even your first team. Like, basically trying to make excuses to not let me watch it, but he let me put it on in the end. And I remember seeing their equaliser, but I was gutted that I'd missed Pienaar's goal, and we were wearing that strip club kit. You were just talking about then, so.
And yeah, that's why it always reminds me of Stephen Pienaar, who needs to be spoken about more. And as well, if anyone can get this to Stephen Pienaar and ask him for an interview, me and Paul would love to chat to him because that'd be a great interview. One of my favourite Everton players growing up. Doesn't get spoken about enough as well.
He's, without a doubt, one of the most talented footballers who's played for Everton in the last 20 years. He's another one who gutted didn't win silverware because he was definitely good enough to win a trophy. And in his peak, mate, he could have walked into a lot of Champions League clubs. Honestly, he's just very unlucky that he went to Spurs and it was Gareth Bale in front of him.
Pienaar with the V-neck. Yeah, that was when he scored against Arsenal in the snow at the Emirates with the V-neck kit. Yeah, brilliant player, Stephen Pienaar. I've seen a tweet actually of like these players don't get enough credit, and it was Pienaar, Nasri, Cabaye, and I can't remember who the other one was, but it was like, players from that era, early 2010s, about, players that didn't really get enough credit. Pienaar and Baines on their day was something else. Yeah, they were just brilliant, weren't they, going up the left-hand side. Erwin Koeman says, has he got my kit? That's great, Erwin. I'm thinking about maybe getting the away kit at the end of the season. I'm not too sure because I do like the yellow this season as well. The shorts are nice as well, the away shorts this season, the blue ones with the yellow striping down the side, and also the goalkeeper one, the black one. Liam Munro says, 82 Hafnia kit the year I was born. I've got 3 of them. Have you still got them, Liam? Because that'd be great if you've kept all of those ones. Yeah, I think, but we'll bring it to the end of the stream now. We've spoken for a long time, Paul. It's gone on a bit longer than we planned. And yeah, let's just got a couple more there. See, Southampton got thumped by Leeds tonight. We must beat them. I haven't checked the score, but yeah, I think they get thumped. Paul?
Yeah, 3-0. It was 0-0 at half time, but the last 20 minutes of the game, Southampton just collapsed. And for me, it's showing now what a myth that manager they've got, Hasenhüttl, is. A couple of months ago, he was getting more.
Really, isn't he?
Well, yeah, essentially, he's same as Silva, he was getting compared to Pochettino just because he was a similar age and he looked
and wore
smart.
suits on the touchline.
Well, looked nice. Yeah, looked nice in a suit, and was a fella in his early 40s who a lot of middle-aged women would probably like to go out on a date with. And he's getting compared to Klopp just because he's a bit quirky and he wears caps and wears tracksuits.
He runs up and down the touchline when he scores.
Makes an idiot out of himself, when there's nothing special about him as a manager. He was getting linked with Champions League jobs and getting big pieces on the BBC website, laud them for how well he was doing after the 9-0 defeat from a few years ago, saying how he's this
9-0 again. It just shows, Paul, to me, if you want your team to win a football match, ask me to bet on the other team, because it always seems to go the opposite way. I put a bet on Chelsea in my accumulator last week and they drew, which just shows that I can't do it, because I think they'd lost 5 on the trot. As soon as I bet on them, they bet against them, they seem to get points, and now this weekend they've gone back to being rubbish again. Philip Mason says, I'm too fat, look stupid in a kit now. Do you just get them, Philip? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you never should be ashamed of wearing your team's colours. I used to love white kits when I was growing up, and now I prefer darker kits because they make me look slimmer. So I do know what you see, mate. And as well, guys, can we just go on, mate?
Speaking of Chelsea, mate, I'd forgotten that they were playing tonight in the Champions League.
Yeah,
I just looked at their score. The 1-0 up, right near the end. That's a cracking result away.
It went to VAR, actually, and it got given. They thought it was offside, but a 1-0 up, 89th minute now. Giroud scored in the 68th minute. But going away in Europe against Atletico, brilliant.
Could be dark horses to win it, them, Chelsea, mate. I mean, they've got the squad.
Yeah.
They've spent a lot of money in the summer. They've got a manager who seems to know how to use them now. They could have a really good run in that.
They could do. I still think City will probably go the distance. And I'd like them to, because they seem to. But didn't you say City were the best team in Europe?
Yeah, but just because you're the best team in Europe doesn't mean you're always going to win it. PSG have been the best team in Europe for years, and they haven't won it. So maybe it is.
Yeah, but
maybe this is the year they finally get over the hurdle. But I still would not bet against Bayern Munich retaining it myself.
I don't know if Chelsea will go the distance though. I don't know.
They'll be there or thereabouts. I think they'll make the semi-final. I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see it, but I'm not too sure. But yeah, we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you very much for watching the stream. Get all your likes in before we end it. It's been a nice long one. Thanks, Paul, for joining me as well. Been a lot of fun talking about nostalgic Everton stuff. It's always fun, isn't it? Nice comments as well. Thank you for all the support in the chat. It's always nice to get a good atmosphere going in the chat, and we definitely got that tonight. We didn't have any connectivity issues as well, which is an absolute godsend. Usually we do, and usually Paul gets sat here to improvise on his own while I try and get back in. But yeah, we'll leave all that for the pre-match stream against Southampton. But thank you very much for watching, guys. As I said, subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. Check us out on Twitter as well. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.